Hello, my name is Oliver and I am in A-Level Year 12. I'm currently studying history as well as psychology and business. I chose to study history as I've been passionate about it for most of my life and I've loved it ever since I started doing it at GCSE. In history, I've loved learning about how the world has evolved throughout the years and the subjects that we are learning, which includes Russia and dictatorship as well as the Tudors. The course has allowed me to develop my writing skills exponentially as well as develop the quality of my essays. It has allowed me to improve my work on gathering information from resources and using websites. My future aspirations vary from wanting to be a pilot to wanting to be a historian in museums. The history helps me with this as it allows me to develop the knowledge I need to do this as well as the skills I need to do what I want to do. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you enjoy Miss Chambers' presentation next.
Hello and welcome to the Sixth Form Virtual Open Evening. Myself, Miss Chambers and Miss Francis will be taking you through the slides that we have put together for the History Department to advertise our subject for A-Level. So, why is history useful? This is one of the biggest questions and the most frequently asked questions that we get from our students here at Barnwell, and over the next few slides we'll be going through and explaining why the subject of history is so useful to study.
History is so important for helping us to understand our world that we live in today. You can't understand the people if you do not understand their past. You cannot understand the community if you do not understand how the community came to be. You cannot understand our nation without the history that made the nation as it is today. And you can't understand the world that we are living in if you don't understand the history that made the world as it is.
In addition to helping us understand our world, history also allows us to understand the people that we live with and are amongst us in our community. As people make up society, it is very difficult to test how different kinds of groups behave when it is made up of 7 billion different people. However, if we look at history and look at specific events in history, we can use it as a social laboratory as one of the few ways that we can predict the behaviours and future behaviours of such large groups of people.
So now that we have convinced you that history is important, we're now going to take you through the first steps to becoming a historian.
In order to become an effective historian, you need to adopt at least 4 different jobs. Each of the jobs is important to understand the past so that we can understand ourselves, our society and our world.
The first job of a historian is to be a detective, using sources and evidence to investigate the past and from them determining what happened. Using these sources and this evidence to separate the truth from the falsehoods or the misinterpretations that some people may have of the past. It also separates out exaggeration in historical writing to find out the truth, or as close as possible as we can come to the truth in what happened in the past. Being a detective is the first job of a historian.
The second job of an effective historian is to become the storyteller. History, some might say, is just a series of events and stories from our past that we can use to entertain and interest others. But the effective historian will do more than just tell a story. We will impart lessons, morals and other learnings of history on others as a result of this, so that we can take forward lessons from the past and make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of others.
The third role that you will need to undertake as a historian is that of the judge. You will need to make decisions about whether or not you agree or disagree with certain aspects of history. For example, was someone evil or just misunderstood? Using the evidence that you have gathered as the detective, we will be asking you to come to a judgment on these important questions.
The final job of an effective historian is to become the philosopher, to reflect on events and actions from the past and to speculate on what was right and what was wrong, to ponder important questions and attempt to draw out conclusions from the events in history, to not only speculate on the lessons of the past and to figure out what was right and wrong, but also to try and attempt to predict the future and learn from the mistakes of the past of others.
So, if you are willing to put those 4 hats of a historian on, and attempt to understand the past, then History A-Level could be the thing for you.
So, what do we cover in A-Level history? There are 3 components to A-Level history, and I'm going to take you through them now over this slide and the next one. The first component that we look at is the Tudors in England between 1485 and 1603. The second component is revolution and dictatorship, specifically in Russia and the Soviet Union between 1917 and 1953. And our third and final component that we look at in A-Level history is a non-exam assessment.
In history, you'll be assessed on the 3 different components that we cover over the 2-year course. Component 1, which is our breadth study, focusing on the Tudors, is an exam at the end of the 2 years which carries a 40% weighting. You will have 2.5 hours to answer 3 questions, one of which is compulsory. Component 2, which is our depth study, looks at revolution and dictatorship, Russia and the Soviet Union. And again, this is a 2.5-hour exam that carries a 40% weighting. 3 questions, with one of those being compulsory. And then our component 3, which is our historical investigation, focuses on the civil rights movement. Students have to answer 1 question which they have created themselves, and this is worth 40 marks, 20% of your final weighting. This is the coursework element of the History A-Level, and it assesses each of the 4 different assessment objectives as part of that answer.
One of the biggest difficulties our students encounter is the movement and transition from studying history at GCSE to studying it at A-Level. It's important for us to lay out the different components and qualities that we expect to see of our A-Level history students, so that you can assess whether you believe that you're ready to move on to studying history at A-Level. The first one is to have a greater independence on how you study and tackle tasks both within the classroom and outside of the classroom. To have a passion for independent reading and study outside of the classroom environment. To be able to engage with extended writing tasks and to have a greater responsibility for your own learning. To question and reflect upon the ideas of others and yourselves, and to consider other people's opinions as well.
With a History A-Level, there are many opportunities that you would have moving forward. If you want to study history at university, you will need to take it at A-Level. However, many universities also recommend history as an excellent subject to have at A-Level when choosing a degree. On this slide, it just gives you an example of some of those degrees that are supported by a History A-Level. Modern languages, the history of art, religious studies and English all see history as a favourable A-Level to have when applying for their subject at degree level.
The beauty of studying history at A-Level and university is that it doesn't limit you to only one career path. Due to the varied set of skills you adopt through its study, your options of careers are widened. Through studying history, you will have gained the ability to engage in analytical writing, debating topics of interests, key detective skills, and a keen passion for learning. A wide range of employers really value these skill sets, and a large proportion of history graduates end up in politics, business opportunities, marketing, journalism, teaching, and curation. However, history does not limit you to these careers only, as your transferable skills are valued in a wide range of other careers.
If you're interested in taking history at A-Level, or if you have any questions about the History A-Level that we haven't covered in this presentation, then please feel free to contact either myself or Miss Chambers. Alternatively, you could catch us at the end of one of your history lessons, where we'd be happy to discuss with you further the opportunities and the structure of the A-Level history course.